KCAL News Los Angeles.
Now at 9, it's what's next. Powerful and potentially damaging Santa Ana winds will arrive overnight. Millions of us live in the warning areas too. We could also see very large dust storms.
And a sudden blast in 16 Orange County SWAT members are hospitalized after a training exercise goes horribly wrong.
And are you ready for it? Fully robotic taxis, tested and debated for years, will finally hit the streets in Southern California tomorrow.
But we begin with breaking news. An emergency landing at LAX. KCAL is live over the scene right now.
Yeah, the plane is a Boeing 777. It called for the emergency landing after reports of a blown tire. The American Airlines flight was coming in from Dallas just before 9 o'clock. It made that emergency landing at LAX, and you can see it was met by emergency crews, and it appears to be all in one piece. There's no word on any damage or injuries at this point. And good evening, everyone. I'm Pat Harvey.
And I'm Juan Fernandez. Very powerful Santa Ana winds are heading for Southern California right now, arriving while we all sleep.
And gusts up to 90 miles an hour are possible. We have team coverage for you, beginning with our Danny Roberti and your next weather forecast. Hey, Danny.
Hey, Pat. Hey, Juan. Yeah, Santa Ana winds. This is going to be a strong event, and this is going to be widespread. Everybody is getting in on this action. All of our neighborhoods, all of our communities. So we're going to talk about it. We're starting to see those winds ramping up in some areas, Malibu into Burbank towards Santa Clarita. We're talking winds between 25, 30 miles per hour. Those are our gusts right now. That's just a taste of what's coming. You can see in Santa Monica over the last hour, I mean, we've seen these guys ramp up. We've got those winds about 35 miles per hour right now. And I want you to take a look at what areas are going to be under this high wind warning. It's all these areas shaded in purple. I point this out because most of our communities are getting in on this. This includes all of Orange County, all of the Inland Empire. So we've got San Bernardino County into Riverside County. The big concern with the IE is that we are going to be dealing with blowing dust that is going to lead to really bad air quality very quickly. All of our mountains seeing these strong gusty winds, and then those usual areas through LA County into Ventura counties. The only area that's not included, it's really the city of Los Angeles into the South Bay. But here's the thing, you're still going to get blustery winds there. Everywhere else, we're talking gusts between 50 to 65 miles per hour. And this is a look when you get out the door tomorrow morning. We have those wild winds all across the board. We are going to talk about that Thursday morning commute, and we're going to walk you through hour by hour when these winds ramp up and where they'll be the strongest. That's coming up in just 10 minutes. Pat, Juan.
All right, thank you so much, Danny. And as you said, most of our communities are getting into this, but the Inland Empire just may get the worst of this windstorm.
That's right, Pat. In addition to dangerous gusts of up to 90 miles per hour, there are warnings tonight for dust storms as well. KCAL News reporter Nicole Comstock live in Fontana with more for us. Nicole?
Well, you guys, the wind has not started out here yet, but when it does tonight, it is promising to make a huge mess across the Inland Empire, making driving bad and also making air quality really bad tomorrow as well. Santa Ana winds are expected to slam the Southland tonight. We're talking 35 to 45 mile per hour northeast winds with isolated wind gusts of up to 90 miles per hour possible below the Cajon Pass.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I hope I don't hit that.
That wind speed is almost unheard of all the way down here, according to Art Guzman, who's lived in North Rialto for 20 years.
90-mile-an-hour winds are going to be a very big problem.
The damaging winds will have the strength to blow down trees and make driving high-profile vehicles like box trucks and trailers dangerous. That's why Jonathan Lauer's trying to make it up the Cajon Pass with his before the wind starts howling.
It was pretty crazy. Blowing all over the place, you know what I'm saying? Wants to take you out.
The winds could be so strong, it's prompted the South Coast Air Quality Management District to send out a wind-blown dust advisory for the Inland Empire.
With the high winds, particularly during the Santa Ana winds, it can pick up at high speeds all these very tiny pollen and particulate matter that can aggravate allergy symptoms.
We spoke with Leanne Lai, the chief allergist at Kaiser Permanente Riverside. She says everyone should be aware. Prolonged exposure to windblown dust can increase the risk of asthma attacks and respiratory infections and harm people with chronic heart and lung issues.
To be more vigilant and see if you need to stay indoors with the windows closed, or when you're driving, be sure to keep the windows up and the air conditioning.
Guzman says that's exactly what his family plans on doing.
Most of the time when it gets windy, we stay indoors. We don't come out unless we absolutely have to.
And we could see some of the strongest winds tomorrow morning around sunrise, which means tonight, if you live in one of those wind-prone areas, it's probably the best idea to bring in or tie down anything that typically flies away in your neighborhood. For now, reporting live in Fontana, I'm Nicole Comstock, KCAL News.
Yep, that would be a smart move, Nicole. Thanks so much. Now to Sherman Oaks, where a landslide damaged or destroyed 3 homes.
In fact, part of a steep slope gave way, crushing a home that was being remodeled, leaving part of a pool dangling in the air. Geologists and the Department of Building and Safety were on site today to inspect other homes in the area.
We are very fortunate that the house that had the majority of the damage was the house that was under construction and nobody was in it at the time.
Building inspectors and geologists say they don't see an imminent threat to other homes in the area.
A sudden blast sent 16 members of the Orange County Sheriff's Department to the hospital today.
That's right. Members of the SWAT and bomb squad teams were training in Irvine when something went terribly wrong. And KCAL News reporter Leslie Marin is live in Irvine with the very latest. Leslie?
Good evening, Juan and Pat. Well, I can tell you the good news is that a majority of those deputies are now back home, but we know at least one does remain in the hospital after he had to undergo surgery because of a wound to his leg. Behind me here is the FBI training facility where all of this occurred and where now an investigation has begun into how and why this explosion happened.
Video from SkyCal shows the moment investigators swarm an FBI training facility in Irvine. You can see one of them wearing a hazmat suit and a face mask as they try to figure out what caused an explosion during an Orange County Sheriff's Department routine training.
It's not a good feeling anytime an injury happens to anybody, including members of our own staff.
The Sheriff's Department says 16 members of the SWAT and bomb squad teams were hurt in the explosion. They say the teams were conducting annual training just before one Wednesday afternoon inside these training rooms that look much like shipping containers when a device exploded.
The most severe injury that was sustained was one of our SWAT team members had a leg injury that is going to require surgery.
Investigators say 2 other deputies suffered injuries, one to their back, another to their leg, while 13 other deputies were rushed to the hospital for dizziness and ringing in their ears. Sergeant Frank Gonzalez gave few details about the device that exploded.
The device was part of the train. As far as what they were doing when it happened, that I don't know.
Sergeant Gonzalez did say both the bomb squad and SWAT deputies were wearing their tactical gear at the time and that medical staff was on site and quickly jumped into action.
We have medical plans in place and they were activated immediately because the safety of all our members is our utmost anytime we hold a training like this.
And we know the FBI had no part in today's training exercise, but they will work hand in hand with the Orange County Sheriff's Department to investigate what went wrong here. Reporting live in Irvine, Leslie Marin, KCAL News.
Votes are still being counted, but opponents of Prop 1 say it's likely to pass by a very thin margin. Here are the latest numbers. The $6 billion bond measure promises to build 10,000 shelter beds for the homeless and people who have addiction and mental health issues. KCAL News political reporter Tom Wade is live in Burbank now with a look at why Prop 1 may just barely pass, Tom.
And Pat, you know, the governor really put it all on the line to get this passed. He was campaigning hard to make sure that Prop 1 crossed the finish line with the yes votes, but it is very close. And the governor right now and other state leaders are just waiting to make sure all the ballots are counted and that they are victorious. California's homeless crisis was center stage in last week's election, with Prop 1 on the ballot. The measure would massively overhaul how the state manages the homeless crisis. The governor, LA Mayor Karen Bass, LA County Sheriff Robert Luna, and other top state leaders went all in trying to convince voters to pass it. But as of now, the race is much tighter than supporters were hoping for.
Well, it shows that Californians don't necessarily trust the state government to spend their money wisely. This doesn't involve an immediate expenditure of tax revenue, but it's billions of dollars in bond money, and voters understand that bond money eventually has to be repaid.
The $6 billion bond promised 10,000 new shelter beds and services for the homeless, mentally ill, and drug addicted.
Where's all this money already going if we're diverting it to the homeless problem?
Tamara Eichelberger, a college professor, is among the millions who voted no on Prop 1. She's critical of Newsom's handling of the homeless crisis.
It seems like we keep doing this over and over again and getting the same result, with money, again, being diverted to other things, so I feel like it should stay here in California and address some of our problems.
A group of healthcare advocates opposed to Prop 1 said it would divert billions away from critical homeless programs that are already in place and create medical incarceration. But supporters like Veronica Lewis with Hopix, a nonprofit in South LA that helps find housing and treatment for the homeless, says Prop 1 includes tools needed to battle today's homeless crisis.
So just think about if it was your loved one who had a severe mental illness and didn't have a place to get well and get services because they couldn't stabilize enough or couldn't be stationary enough to get those services, or one of your family members addicted to drugs and close to death because of it. This project, this program, and the reforms it'll bring and the shifting of some of the way that money is going to be used is literally saving lives.
Political experts say since Newsom became the face of Prop 1, it may have helped motivate his opposition enough to almost overcome a massive disparity in funding.
And what makes this actually a really interesting race is the overwhelming supply of money was on the yes side. A quick look at it's over 12 million, somewhere I think between about 12 and 15 million was spent to pass this thing. Virtually no money was raised on the no side.
With a new batch of ballots that were added to the total this afternoon or this evening, the yes votes are winning by about 10,000 right now. Still very close. The mail-in ballots are still being counted across the state. The votes are not certified until April 12th. Reporting live in Burbank, I'm Tom Waite, KCAL News.
Definitely a close one, Tom. Thank you. Well, the clock is ticking for Tik Tok. In a rare bipartisan move, the House of Representatives today overwhelmingly approved a bill that gives the app's China-based parent company an ultimatum: either sell the app or cease operations in the U.S. Some lawmakers say it's a matter of national security. But as CBS News correspondent Scott McFarland reports, influencers are pushing back against the crackdown.
TikTok has lured 170 million American users with its quick, viral videos. But perhaps nothing has spread faster than a plan in Congress requiring TikTok separate from its China-based owner or be cut off from its U.S. users. Just 8 days after it was introduced, the bill passed the U.S. House overwhelmingly.
Why in the hell would we want and allow the Chinese Communist Party to have access to our private data?
Despite an 11th-hour flurry of lobbying by TikTok, which CBS News has learned paid to fly and lodge some of its most popular users to Washington this week to make their case.
My name is Gohar.
Including Gohar Khan of Connecticut, who posts strategy videos for college applicants to millions of TikTok-using high schoolers. What would you do if it went away tomorrow?
I would have to figure out a whole new strategy for bringing customers in.
TikTok has launched tidal waves of push alerts urging its users to reach out to their congressperson by typing in their zip code. Some in Congress already worry this might be an example of how China could misuse users' personal information.
Basically, the company had used their geolocation data along with their zip code information to target these kids.
President Biden says he'd sign the bill into law, but it would have to pass a sluggish U.S. Senate first. Leaders of the Senate Intelligence Committee have expressed support.
This is a national security issue.
But whether China would allow a sale and who would buy TikTok are open issues, and questions remain about First Amendment rights.
Passing a bill that could lead to an interruption or an elimination of the app is a huge monumental decision that I wish more people understood.
In a statement to CBS News, TikTok says the legislative process was secretive and that the bill was jammed through. They argue because it's a ban. Former President Trump opposes this bill too, and that could have an impact on the now pivotal Republican U.S. senators. Scott McFarland, CBS News, the Capitol.
Well, a legal victory for Donald Trump in his Georgia election interference case.
That story is next, but first, our Mike Rogers at the desk.
Yeah, big expansion for a driverless taxi program tomorrow. It's one that's been widely controversial. Where you can find it here in the Southland.
Say hello to the future tomorrow. Waymo's fleet of robotic driverless taxis will start carrying passengers without safety drivers for the first time after months of testing. The service kicking off between Santa Monica and downtown Los Angeles.
KCAL News assignment editor Mike Rogers at the desk. And Mike, we've talked a lot about these robo-taxis. Which company is this one?
You want to, Pat, this is Waymo that is coming into town here, and they've been here for a while. They've been doing this testing, as you've mentioned, but they've had these safety drivers, if you will, in the driver's seat of each of these rides, just in case something were to happen. Now, in this next test of phasing, they will remove that safety driver from the front seat, and it will be fully autonomous as this vehicle goes. Now, these rides are free right now because it is still in the testing phase, and it is not open to everybody. There is already a waiting list. That is the amount of people that can do this is full at this point, but you can still join the waiting list. Now, we said kind of, Santa Monica to downtown LA, roughly that. It's Santa Monica, Venice, kind of through Century City, along the 10, up into West Hollywood, and then back down into Koreatown, the Westlake District, and downtown Los Angeles, where they will be offering these. And again, it's only to invited members because this is still one more part of the testing phase. As we have reported, there have been lots of issues, lots of protests over these driverless taxis. The crews up in the Bay Area actually canceled their program after a number of issues, including one where a pedestrian was run over by a cruise car after being hit by a regular car with a driver in it. So lots of controversies here, lots of outreach from outspoken people from different unions and different sorts of people like that. But now this program expanding. The next testing phase starts tomorrow here in LA.
All right, thanks so much, Mike. Now let's get back to those powerful winds moving in overnight.
And let's get back to KCAL's Danny Roberti with more in her next weather forecast. Danny?
Yeah, you guys, it's starting right now. This is a look at Santa Monica, and anytime we get these strong gusty winds, they like to zoom the camera in on the Ferris wheel. You can see the flag blowing, traditional Santa Ana wind event, and the camera, it is shaking like crazy right now. Winds are picking up in Santa Monica. A lot of areas through LA County into Ventura County, gusts right now up to 35 miles per hour through Santa Monica. You can see now we're getting gusty through LAX. The Santa Clarita Valley, 20 miles per hour. This is not how it's going to end. We're going to see these winds really start to ramp up overnight, slowly but surely increasing. So let's talk timing to help you prepare for your Thursday. This is a look at midnight this evening. And as we go into the evening time, winds slowly but surely, they start to ramp up, howling overnight. This is 3 o'clock Thursday morning. And let me bring you to 8 o'clock Thursday morning. This is when they intensify. This is when they become widespread. You are seeing that along that corridor from the San Bernardino County mountains all the way down to the Orange County coastline. Let me zoom you into a couple different areas. Gusts between 40 to 50 miles per hour. This is 8 o'clock Thursday morning through Malibu into Simi Valley, right there towards the Santa Clarita Valley. We'll bring you over just a bit. San Fernando Valley into the San Gabriel Valley, 50 to 60 mile per hour gusts possible. That's the case through the Inland Empire. And then all this purple right here stretching from San Clemente up to Huntington Beach, through Mission Viejo and Irvine. We are talking gusts between 50 to 60 miles per hour. We'll continue to stay breezy and warm going into Saturday and Sunday. And by next week, temperatures climb into the mid 70s. Coming up, we are going to talk about the chance for some showers and storms popping up at some point this week. We're going to break that down for you and continue to watch these winds. That's next.
All right, we'll see you soon, Danny. But now to an unexpected ruling in Georgia's election interference case against former President Donald Trump. A Fulton County judge has thrown out 6 of the charges against Trump and 5 other defendants.
CBS's Nicole Killian reports on what this means for the rest of the case.
Fulton County Judge Scott McAfee threw out charges that accuse former President Trump and several of his co-defendants of pressuring public officers to violate their oaths as part of an alleged effort to overturn the 2020 election. McAfee said District Attorney Fani Willis and her prosecutors were not specific enough about the violations, writing, "The lack of detail concerning an essential legal element is fatal." Just 3 of Trump's 13 counts were tossed, including one for his January 2021 phone call to Georgia's Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger.
I just want to find 11,780 votes.
Trump's legal team applauded the ruling.
It was a step in the right direction. It goes to the sloppiness of, frankly, the prosecutors down there.
Former federal prosecutor Tom Dupree said it was only a partial victory for Trump.
The judge's decision effectively has the result of narrowing the case against Trump and the other defendants. It doesn't eliminate it entirely, though.
It is a lie.
McAfee's ruling comes ahead of a highly anticipated decision this week about whether Willis and Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade should be disqualified from the election interference case. Last month, the pair admitted to having a romantic relationship for about a year after Wade was hired, but denied any wrongdoing.
The romantic relationship ended before the indictment was returned, yes or no?
To a man, yes.
The sprawling racketeering case against former president and his associates remains largely intact, but if Willis is disqualified, another attorney could be assigned to the case, which could further impact the proceedings. Nicole Killian, CBS News, Atlanta, Georgia.
Still ahead here at 9, an arrest in connection with threats made against a local school.
Plus a deadly strike on a UN food center in Gaza. What Israel is saying about the attack. That's coming up.
Popular discount retailer is closing hundreds of stores nationwide. Family Dollar and Dollar Tree made the announcement after a disappointing fourth quarter earnings report. Family Dollar will close 600 stores in the first half of this year, and 370 more will close over the next several years as leases expire. Parent company Dollar Tree will close 30 stores. Many Family Dollar stores have been plagued by health and safety concerns, resulting in fines for violating product safety standards.
Well, still ahead here, a presidential candidate is ready to announce his running mate.
Plus, stolen beauty supplies as far as the eye can see. New reaction to a Southern California mom accused of running a nationwide theft ring.
And a college basketball program with no college? Darren Haynes has the details and the explanation next in sports.
The death of a non-binary Oklahoma student who died after a fight is being ruled a suicide. The autopsy report says 16-year-old Nex Benedict, who used the pronouns they, them, had toxic levels of 2 drugs in their system. The state's medical examiner says it was an overdose. Nex's grandmother called police after the student says they were beaten up by 3 girls in a school bathroom. A police body cam shows Nex talking to a police officer at the hospital. The next day, he died.
Well, turning back to politics, the 2024 general election is officially underway, with both President Biden and Donald Trump securing enough delegates to get their party's nomination. Today, President Biden hit the campaign trail in Wisconsin, which he won by only 20,000 votes 4 years ago. CBS's Nancy Cordes spoke to voters in the battleground state to hear what's on their minds.
Jay Wisenton co-owns a barbershop on Milwaukee's north side, just a few blocks from where President Biden spoke today. Jay voted for Biden in 2020, but is now undecided.
I've been seeing it from both perspectives, and I've been seeing it from the black voters as well. Like, yeah, we're going to vote for Trump this year. You know, we need Big T back in office.
We sat down with him at the Rise and Grind coffee shop, which is owned by Bobby Tatum, a lifelong Democrat.
I'm a Biden fan. I feel like unemployment is, down. I feel like he's helping small businesses. I'm a small business owner.
Patty Granger is a project manager, a mom of 2, and plans to vote for Donald Trump.
He is a very strong personality, but I like the fact that he pushes boundaries or doesn't come in as a politician.
Inflation is one of her biggest issues.
Almost $6 for 4 sticks of butter. And we're the dairy state. It shouldn't be that expensive.
How much of it do you attribute to the after effects of the pandemic, and how much of it do you attribute to President Biden's policies?
It's been years now since the pandemic. I'm not buying that anymore.
I'm still buying the pandemic because we're still getting the aftermath.
You feel like the economy is improving.
It is. Actually, it has. We ain't where we need to be, but I feel like we're headed in that right direction.
All 3 are uneasy about sending more aid to Ukraine, something Biden has been pushing for.
It's like, how can you send billions of dollars over there, yet our communities need it here?
A big issue here in Wisconsin is abortion.
For me, it's big. Being a woman and also having 2 daughters, it's important for them to have a choice for their body.
That's their own personal decision. They should be able to have the choice whether or not if they want to keep a child or not.
And how are they feeling about age?
You've got an 81-year-old running against a 77-year-old.
I feel like the choice is very limited.
It's
when you
very
think
limited when it comes to that.
So unfortunately, that's what we have to choose from.
And that choice, they all said, has them paying closer attention to Vice President Kamala Harris and whoever Trump picks as his running mate. Harris made her 6th visit to this battleground state since taking office last week, and her focus was reproductive rights. Nancy Cordes, CBS News, Milwaukee.
Presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. says he has picked a running mate. Earlier this week, there were reports that Kennedy reached out to New York Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers, who shares his skeptical views on vaccines. The independent candidate has also reportedly contacted former Minnesota Governor Jesse Ventura. Kennedy has other names on his short list for vice president. The big reveal will come on March 26th in Oakland. And new tonight at 9 o'clock, the CEO of a major cosmetics chain is speaking out after a high-profile arrest right here in SoCal.
A San Diego County woman is accused of being the ringleader of a crime group responsible for $8 million in stolen goods.
Wow. KCAL News assignment editor Mike Rogers at the desk. Now, Mike, the allegations against this woman are pretty wild.
You know, Juan and Pat, I mean, these retail crime thefts are pretty crazy in and of themselves. But when you hear what this woman was allegedly doing is really crazy. I want to show you some video of what they found when they raided her home. Now, police say, the California Department of Justice says this woman employed a network about of a dozen people, a dozen women across the country that would help her steal things from different stores like Ulta, like Sephora, then mail her these goods that she would then sell on Amazon for about half of the price. In total, they say, since about 2012, she's racked up about $8 million in stolen goods to then resell. Now, this network of people includes a woman here in Colton that was also taken into custody as part of this whole ring. The California Department of Justice charging about a dozen of them. In some of these locations where they hit, San Diego, Huntington Beach, Culver City, Riverside, Menifee, all over Southern California and across the country, Colorado, Arizona as well. Now, in total, this woman has been charged, and the 12 of them have been charged with, I'm getting to the bottom of the indictment here, it's long, 140 different counts of grand theft and other things related to that. Meanwhile, that Ulta CEO, yeah, he is speaking out, he's saying that they need to do more to be able to stop these crimes because they are concerned about not only losing the product and the money, but also the staff members that are inside of these stores. We have before seen these things go south, something happens, something goes wrong, and somebody gets injured in these. So that, he says, is his primary concern. And then, of course, obviously dealing with all the loss in this, but a really sophisticated network. CHP, the California Department of Justice, took her down in her San Diego home in her pink PJs. Now she awaits her trial, awaits her court date on these 140 charges, guys.
And this went on for a decade, Mike.
It went on for a long time. And you know, she herself, according to the indictment, didn't steal a thing. She hired and employed people, paid for their plane tickets, hotel rooms, everything like that for them to steal them for her.
Wow.
It's like a movie or a TV show.
It would have to be, yeah.
That we don't have to mention, but you know, it does have all the makings.
Characteristics.
It does, Pat. It sure does. All right, coming up here next at 9, a disturbing trend as the election heats up.
Politicians and judges targeted by swatting pranks, and it could have deadly consequences. Tonight we are digging into the mysterious online community that's putting lives in danger.
We want to thank you for watching KCAL News at 9.
KCAL News at 10 starts right now.